This is going to be about Larry Heinemann. I read this story by Larry Heinemann, The Fragging, and not meaning to make a joke of it, but it blew me away. I can't be the only person who said that. I was so impressed by that story that I wanted to read more of his work, even though I do not usually dine on fiction. Also, I had never heard of Larry Heinemann. I checked him out and found that he has written other books on Vietnam, but I didn't see how he could possibly top the story I'd read, so I decided to avoid those. I chose one with another setting entitled Cooler by the Lake. It takes place in Heinemann's hometown, Chicago, Illinois. Setting makes a tremendous difference. From the first words, I could tell that this was a very different kind of writing from the short story. Most of all, the tone had changed completely. His Vietnam story was so tight and so fated to turn out wrong. There's no suspense in it whatsoever. The reader knows from the get-go that this Lieutenant McQuaid is going to die. He's going to die because he's a Citadel punk. By the time we learn what that means, we've also picked up on a few other things, all war-related, and we know why he has to die. Cooler by the Lake is, in comparison, a slacker. It takes its time getting where it's going to go. I should repeat that I don't read much fiction unless there's a special circumstance, as in this case, so maybe I'm a bad judge of it. I'm a pretty picky reader, and I'm impatient. So this slow, lackadaisical pace, first of all, it surprised me, and as it continued, it began to wind me up into a kind of resentment. Come on, Larry, I was thinking, what's the deal? This book, Cooler by the Lake, is very loose, easygoing, dilatory, digressive. If it's driven by anything, it would be Heinemann's great affection for Chicago, the locale, and its culture, sports, arts, and history. Heinemann loves that history. I thought this fondness for the city overwhelmed his storytelling, and I, the reader, with all of my impatience, ran out of gas. That is to say, I no longer was the reader. This after about 50 pages. Not much, but also more than enough for me. I think you'd have to love Chicago in order to stay on board. The book, what I read of it, is a devoted, sentimental adoration of Chicago, replete with that history and an explanation of everything contained in a profusion of parentheses, perhaps I should say a maddening profusion of parenthetical asides, since they quickly became not amusing or informative, but an irritant to me. I think this was so because there was just none of this in the fragging. I don't have to know, and I don't really care, really, how Sheffield Avenue became Sheffield Avenue, with a description of the Sheffields and their contributions to Chicago. And I'm not very smart, but I am smart enough to know or to guess that Lake Street is called Lake Street because of the lake. It could have been Veronica Lake, maybe she's from Chicago, or Ricky Lake. There, I threw in a few parentheses of my own. Heinemann goes into parentheses at least once in every paragraph, sometimes more often than that. At some point, around page 50, I wanted him to stop, and since I didn't think he was going to, I did. I also did not give a fig for the whimsical main character or his zany extended family, and I just could not make it to the key point promised on the cover, where he finds a wallet, decides to return it, and all hell breaks loose, one of those no good deed goes unpunished twists. I'm sure all hell did break loose, with much hilarity, along with lots of Chicago history, but, as you know, that happened without me. What can I say? I was spoiled by the fragging. Having written that, Larry Heinemann is entitled to write what he pleases, whether I like it or not.